Today's episode is brought to you by the wild, wild west that is Overwatch esports.
Drop the beat!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins, and with me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. Got to unmute my microphone if I want to talk. That's podcasting 101. So
that's actually like podcasting 010.
Yeah, like the introductory to podcasting. It's the introductory course. But yeah, so I've been doing good, man. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm definitely more stable than the aforementioned Overwatch esports scene because, boy, you know, we've been doing this for a long time, I think we can say, and I keep thinking, like, man, you know, one of these days, Overwatch esports is just going to be like a mainstay thing. It's going to be like a League of Legends or a Counter-Strike. It's going to be like, okay, we've got these tournaments, and that's what's going to happen. We've got these major teams, and those are going to be the big play. No. Everything is in flux almost always, and we could have a boon in the number of tournaments, the number of orgs getting in, the number of players, and then at the drop of a hat, everything could be gone, and then right back up again. So we're gonna talk a lot more about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for us trying to plan these episodes. However, I think we did a good job today. We have a great idea from A. Smith for an episode, one of our patrons. It really gave us a what I think is a phenomenal idea for an episode that we're kind of theming today. So yeah, we're going to be going over a World Cup roster that we cobbled together. I did most of the cobbling.
Yeah, why did you say we? Do you have a mouse in your pocket or something?
It's like high school all over again. I'm doing the homework and other people are copying off of me. But no, yeah, we're going to be discussing what we would think would be the ideal rosters for the World Cup for really the big four teams. We're going to do the U.S., Canada, Finland, and Sweden. The rest of the teams are it's not to say they don't have a chance. It's to say that there's not a ton of drama in who ends up on their team. Right. You know, they're a lot shallower pools of talent, though. The cream of the crop might be easy or good contenders, I should say.
I mean, Korea probably has a pretty decent talent pool to pull from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We didn't choose them because we don't study them like we do the others. Obviously the whole Asian region, I think China was the number one on SR when they did the competition, or I don't know exactly what the point of that was, but when they were tallying up everybody's SR, the average SR of all the regions, I think China did come out on top of that. So they definitely look like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, like, the disclaimer of this is that there are definitely other teams that are playing. The other disclaimer is that we just don't care about them. No.
These were just the most fun conversations we thought for both us to make the rosters and you guys to hear us talk about them. We thought it was the best chance that everybody would be very familiar with the names and have their own opinions and think I'm horribly, horribly wrong in who I put on the rosters. And that's great. And if you do think we're horribly wrong, make sure you tweet at us. Let us know what you would do with the roster if you had the opportunity to build it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if your USA roster, the first three aren't Deathblow, the Blevins, Hexagrams, then I really don't know if I can agree with your team. So,
well, we got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about because that's exactly what it is. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we did last week. And I'm looking at the notes as to what you wrote down, Death, but I'm still going to ask you what was last week? What were we up to last week?
You know, I was going to kind of hide what I did, but I feel fairly confident we're going to have an announcement next week, and it's not Overwatch related, but this was my most Clash Royale centric week that I've ever had. So for once, it's not the Blevins talking about the other game, that which will not be named. Oops, we already named it. But yeah, so I've been doing a lot of planning for an event or something. Details to come soon. We won't go too in depth on the show about it since it's not Overwatch related, but we'll let you guys know.
We spent the entire pre-show talking about it.
Yes, we did. So yeah, we got some exciting things coming up. I've been working and planning on for that. So hopefully we will have a full-fledged announcement for you guys about that next week. But otherwise, just been trying to keep up with everything that's been going on with all these rosters that we'll talk about soon.
Yeah. As for me, I've been playing a similar amount of Clash Royale as the weeks previous, but actually slightly less. I finally hit 4K trophies, which felt pretty good. And then I quickly fell back down. I'm actually like 1 or 2 wins out of 4K again. I jumped up to 4,100 and then back down. But yeah, so I feel like just kind of like when I hit Legend in Hearthstone, now I'm just like, yay, I got the thing. Now what? Okay, I could go higher, but like I'm realistically only going to go up probably one more division before I need to have the next tier of cards, and it's just so much of a grind to get to that next tier and to hit like level 12.
Thankfully, it's
level.
worth it now though, because like the season reset differs depending on how far you get. Like you'll reset to a higher amount, things like that.
Yeah.
So they better than Hearthstone in the sense of reasons to keep going or reasons to do it more than once.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I hit my 4K, so I'm going to get that next draft chest at the end of the season, which is going to feel pretty good and help me towards the next tier of cards. So, it's a grind. But I've actually been playing a lot of Heroes of the Storm. For those of you who don't know, Heroes of the Storm right now is, I guess, I don't know, partnering might not be the right word, but they're doing a promotion in Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch where if you play Heroes of the Storm games with a friend, you get rewards in Overwatch as well as Heroes of the Storm. So if you haven't played Heroes of the Storm yet and you want your sweet Overwatch skins, I think you get the Officer Diva skin, and there's some other like sprays and stuff. Actually pretty cool stuff. Just play a couple of games with friends in Heroes of the Storm. I know Overwatch today jumped in one of my games. Like he's like a player level 5. And it's like, yeah, I just need the stuff. I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, for reference, I'm player level like 500 something. So I've played a little bit more than he has. But it's really like 5 games. And, without going on too much of a tangent about Heroes of the Storm, it's actually a really good game. If you like MOBAs at all, but you don't like the master's degree you need to play League of Legends or Dota, Heroes of the Storm is a great alternative to those 2 games.
Yeah, it would be my MOBA of choice if I just had it in me to ever play a MOBA ever again, which I don't know that I do anymore at this point. And it sounds so appealing, and then I like log in and I'm like, oh, or I think about logging in and I'm just like, I can't do it, and I just go into one of my alts and just solo queue comp in Overwatch.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to go through the motions with HOTS because the games are shorter, the games change more, the map diversity makes the games feel way more fresh, whereas like in League of Legends, you're playing the same map over and over again. But I said I wouldn't go on this tangent, so I'm not going to. Just play some games with friends on Heroes of the Storm. It's free to play. Just download it. If you are friends with me on Battle.net and you see me on and you want to play for the reward or whatever, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to play if I have time. So that was that. So let's move on to my favorite segment of the show.
Overwatch Today, meme of the week.
We've got a couple of good Overwatch Today memes for this week. One harkens back to my favorite. It's like a meme. I don't even know, a meme style, meme trope, a meme. Is that a thing you can do? It is another variation of the Genji I need healing. It's like you'd think I'd be sick of these by now. Wrong. I'm not.
You would think you would.
You'd think so. I'm not. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. The second is I go through Instagram and I see Overwatch Today's Instagram and I see he posted this thing about Call of Duty World War II. I'm like, what? This isn't Overwatch. So I look at it. It's like the Call of Duty World War II picture. It's a guy. You're like looking into the soldier's eyes, and then it zooms in on the eye, and then it zooms in on the eye again, and then it zooms in again, and it says, "I need healing," because his eye is like slightly green, and it's like clearly photoshopped, but
yeah, it's not. They added the green, so that's why this one gets
a okay, there was a little bit of artistic license used here, but I still appreciated it.
It's the next level. It's the meme is iterated. You no longer need the green and the black together. You just need one of the colors. We'll add the second one.
Yeah, or you need none of the colors, and then we don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. The second one, which is a little more original, I guess, I don't know. And you might be able to more correctly verify what this is from. I think this is from one of the Star Wars movies. This guy. Maybe
it is. I'm not 100% sure which one. It could be Rogue One or The Force Awakens. I'm not 100% sure, but it's one of the Empire generals.
Yeah, it's an Empire general looking and yelling, and it says when Zarya ults the whole enemy team together, but your Genji gets play of the game over it, and it says we stand here amid my achievement, not yours. And as a Zarya player, that is 100% true. Could not be more accurate. Yes, the Genji got the play of the game. Yes, the Tracer got the play of the game. Yes, the insert whatever damage dealing hero got the play of the game. But it's not that's not the skill. They just did 5 damage to the 5th person, so there's an extra blip and elimination sound in there, so they get it. They did almost none of the work, but yeah. Yeah, the hard part is getting them in the Graviton Surge, this gigantic ult that literally pulls people in from afar and puts them all in one place. That is the skill. Oh, wait. But moving right along, pay no attention to the man behind the green curtain. I love Zarya. We need more Zarya skins. Can we talk about how we need more Zarya legendary skins or Zarya skins that aren't garbage? Have we talked about this before?
We did. I mean, it was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so and it's still the case. That's my point.
Yeah,
there are better skins in Heroes of the Storm for Zarya than there are in Overwatch. By a significant
Summer
margin.
Games in Siberian are the only ones worth talking about even a little bit, and even they're not great.
There's no other legendaries. Those are the only 2, right? Oh, no, Cybergoth.
The punk one. The terrible punk one.
It's so bad. And Summer Games is fine, but it's not legendary caliber. That's epic at best. That's actually that's more like a rare skin, but definitely not legendary. And Siberia is passable, but it's not great. But yeah, so in Heroes of the Storm, Zarya has this awesome Amazon-esque, or not Amazon-esque, Viking woman skin where she's like lightning, and she's got the braids like Freya, ancient Greek. It's awesome. It's amazing. And then there's another one where she's literally has the Oni Genji armor. It's Oni Genji armor Zarya in Heroes of the Storm. It is amazing. Why do we not have anything even close to that in Overwatch? I can't even. That I just cannot even. Seems like an oversight. They have the skins, just port them over. Just give me something, please. But I'm gonna step down off of that tangent. I told myself we're not gonna go on these Heroes of the Storm tangents, but let's move right along to it's tournament talk. We have a couple of updates and some other tournament info to hand out. We've got looks like a couple of rounds of Apex to talk about for the at least from the results side.
Yeah, they're not very fluid as far as, you still have Envy, who has not yet played a match, but you have, teams like Rogue, who's played 2, Africa Freaks Blue, Kongdu, Panthera. A couple of these teams have played 2 rounds already. Most of them have only played 1, and it actually looks like Envy is the only team that has yet to participate in the event. So they have a match coming up, I want to say overnight tonight. It's in 10 hours or something like that they'll be playing. So keep an eye out for that. By the time you are listening, that match will have happened. But taking a look at things, we have one thing that stands out really in bold letters here, and that is a notch in the loss column for Rogue. They fell to Kongdu Panthera in one of their matches, so obviously not the result they were looking for from that match. Kongdu Panthera is one of the teams that has played 2 rounds, and they did lose their other match, so that was presumably to Lunatic High. In fact, it has to have been to Lunatic High. So yeah, their Lunatic High currently sits at the top of that group because they have 3 points, just like Kongdu and Rogue. However, they do not have a loss, and they have a game in hand. That's a hockey terminology to me. That means they've played one less game than the rest of the group or the division. So they have the opportunity to go out there and earn more points. So they kind of are ahead on the tiebreak, considering there's a theoretical additional point or 3 points to be added there. Otherwise, you have Africa Freaks Blue is 2-0. We have X6 Gaming, I'm not very familiar with, at 1-0. Runaway is at 0-1 currently in that Group B. So we'll see if they're able to run away with this season like they did the last one. We'll find a way to work in the solid dad memes in there. Anyway, we possibly can. We have Luxury Watch Blue at 1-0, MVP Space at 1-0, and let's see, BK Stars and Meta Athena each at 1-0 over in Group D. So that is the Envious group: BK Stars, Meta Athena, Envious, and RGW. I'm not 100% sure who RGW is, but they seem to have their work cut out for them, because those are by name recognition, at least, in my experience, three of the better teams there.
That is a tough bracket to be in. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's nice. In a way, it's nice to see Rogue as human, right? Like, it's not. I mean, I want them to win every match ever. I mean, I have the jersey, so I have to root for them. And I mean, I also like them. Although we do actually have, I mean, we might as well bring it up now. I don't know if you saw this, Death, but Skipjack got bought out from Rogue and is now on Laser Kittens.
Okay, I did see he got signed to Laser Kittens, but I didn't see the details of it. I saw it like immediately right before we started recording. Like we said, there's been a ton of news like this, roster changes, roster statuses, things like that. So, batten down the hatches for the let's break it down portion, because things are going to be coming fast and furious once we get there. But yeah, it'll be curious. Is there any word yet, or did you see anything about who their replacement is, who's been playing their games with them over there, or has that not affected their matches yet?
I didn't see the Rogue side of it yet, but I did. All I saw was the Skipjack and Laser Kitten side. So it'd be interesting to hear more about that trade. Like, again, I mean, Skipjack was part of that original, like, the big trade, and they jumped through all these hoops to get the Rogue team where it is now in terms of it being mostly French players, and they did all those other moves, and Rogue has been doing so well, so it just seems like a really interesting move. Like, why would you go from being on the best team in the world, arguably?
Well, to give some kind of background there, I guess he's been inactive for a little while. He was actually loaned to Laser Kittens, and so he's been there for a little while now.
Okay.
It was like April 21st. He was officially loaned over to Laser Kittens. They've been using Nox in their main tank role, for the majority of their success recently, for sure. So it'll not going to impact their performance in this event or anything like that, but nonetheless, it's definitely creates a little confusion. But I gotta say, I mean, it's much better than having somebody sitting on an inactive list on a roster. So it sounds like it'll probably be for the best on the overall thing.
Right, and I mean, we take it for granted, but if you really don't want to be in Korea playing, Overwatch as your job for X thousand weeks in the Apex tournament, I could see not wanting to be on a team that's probably going to make the playoffs. Yeah, especially if you're sitting inactive. Like, I could definitely see that for sure. But it'd be interesting to get his opinion on it, or at least someone that's involved's opinion on it, because right now it's just wild speculation, and
reminds me a little bit of the Shake issue with Complexity's old roster. Like, I read somewhere, and I talked about it last week, how I think he's still tied to Complexity in some way, like on an inactive list or something like that. But then I saw something that he might have been released prior to that, so I don't know. There was some conflicting information there, but for the most part, I just hope all these players that are affected by the roster releases and things like that either are able to stay put with the roster and wait for an additional sponsor to step in and keep the chemistry of the team together, or that they just find a home where they're able to be successful, especially these names. I mean, Skipjack has been a staple tank. You know, he might not have always necessarily been on the number one teams around, but he's always in the running, you know, no matter where he's been. He's always been a player. So it's great to see him continue on and find a new home. So hopefully, you know, we'll see that continue for some of these other guys we'll be talking about soon.
Yeah, and the one other thing, going off of that confusion with like complexity, I know that a lot of teams have like, it's like a differentiator, like whether you're part of the team, meaning the competitive team, or if you're part of the org, which could mean the competitive team, or it could mean like a streamer or content producer or like a mix of that. So it is kind of confusing, at least to us plebs on the outside, but I don't know, because like Mendo is still like streaming under Cloud9, or at least all of his like stuff on his stream is Cloud9 branded, and it has all the Cloud9 ads and stuff on it. So who knows? It's definitely an interesting place, but let's move on. Yeah,
and he's playing for like a non-sponsored community team at the moment, so it's definitely can be weird and hard to keep track of for sure.
Yeah, and I mean it's probably all for naught anyway, right? Because Overwatch League is just gonna throw everything into a tussy. But
yeah, it's gonna shake everything up.
Yeah, but hey, sorry guys, we had some technical difficulties in the middle of recording for some reason. Death Blows volume or mic went out. I don't know. I think it was on my end. But we are back, and we are talking about the Alienware monthly Melee groups. And yeah, let's just dive right into it.
Yeah, so our apologies if anything gets repeated. We're just going to go from the top here with the Alienware Monthly Melee discussion. For Group A, we have Team Liquid, LG Evil, Yikes, and then the qualifier for the upper bracket winner that will be taking place this Friday coming up. So if you're listening right away as it comes out, it's in 2 days. If you're listening early next week, it is already happened. The whole event's done. So make sure you go back and watch some VODs on that. For Group B, we have Immortals, Selfless, CLG, and the lower bracket winner from the qualifier. Those will be taking place, and it's a little weird to discuss this again right away immediately after we just discussed it, but nonetheless, it's a really great finale for the monthly Melee. This will be the last one that takes place.
Sad boys.
Unfortunately, yeah, we're pretty upset about that, but in order to create, you must destroy, somebody once said at some point, and probably much more eloquently than I just did.
Not talking about Overwatch esports events that have been a mainstay in the scene for quite some time.
Right. But if they're canceling it, there's something coming soon. They wouldn't just do that for no reason. So, but nonetheless, we have 4 teams here that are really playing at the top of their game, really 5 teams that are playing at the top of their game. Liquid has come on in the last 2 events we've seen them in, played really, really well, and proven that they need to be taken seriously instead of just being about, you know, the 8th best team. Like, sure, to qualify, you got to bring them because they're just going to win a qualifier spot anyways if you put them in, the qualifiers. But just seem to be a rung below everybody else. They've really catapulted themselves up lately. LG Evil is, you know, maybe it's 4 teams playing at the top of their game, have still though been one of the best teams in the North America region. Just there was a little bit there where they were winning everything for, you know, about 2 months. They won back-to-back monthly Melees, if memory serves.
Well, yeah, and then Super probably had like midterms or something, so even
as we still continue to be angry that people much like half of our age are just way more talented than us. But, you know, and then you have Yikes, who is the former Denial roster. We've really only got one tournament from them recently where they've been playing at a really high level, but nonetheless, it'll be, you know, exciting to see if they're able to continue doing that. Immortals has really, you know, we talked about it a minute ago. They kind of have the matchup against LG Evil right now, but on the overall, I feel like they've been a little less than they have been. Really, you know, since the last balance change, they've fallen off just a little bit. And Selfless is probably the most consistent team that we've seen in North America, just constantly putting up really solid numbers, a little less active in the tournament scene. So it makes me wonder if they might just be really good at recognizing when they're playing well, when they're not, and staying out of events when they're not, you know, at their best. So kudos to them if that's the case. Nonetheless, you want to see them do well when they are on the bracket. So it would be a smart choice if they were able to identify it. And the last team there, Counter Logic Gaming, has really in their last 2 events or so stood out and been, outperforming expectations for them. So now the expectations are there. We expect to see them do really well, and they've got Immortals and Selfless in their bracket, and they're going to need to get ahead of one of them in the first day group stages in order to make it into the tournament. So I'm really excited to see all this play out. Plus, there's the two teams we don't even know about who will be there. So we'll have to keep an eye on who that is. And, there's some quality. There's NRGs. I mean, there's teams out there that are very legit that are not on this list. And we'll see who makes it into the qualifier and who comes out on top.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying before, this is one of the first tournaments that's an invitational style tournament that we've seen where we are not saying, okay, one of these two teams is going to get either first or second, and let's discuss what the rest of the tournament is going to look like. We've had that happen a number of times. It's like, okay, we've got Envy and Rogue. Let's just place them in the 1 and 2 spots, or 1 and 3, depending on how the bracket plays out. Let's place them where they belong, and then we'll talk about the rest of the tournament. Here, I don't even really know who to pick to win this one. Like you said, CLG came out to had a huge performance last week, but they didn't win the tournament. So who knows? LG Evil has shown huge bursts of power, but they've been on the downside. Team Liquid is literally probably the least consistent team of all time. They've gone from phenomenal to complete garbage to bad. It's like it's a flip of a coin for Team Liquid. Immortals, another top tier team. So like, if I had to put money on it here, I don't even know who I pick. I want to pick CLG because
I'm going to make you pick one. So.
I want to pick CLG. They're the team I want to root for. And here's why. We've talked about it before. We had Devin, the CEO of CLG, on the team. That obviously makes us want to pick, at least makes me want to pick favorites. But more importantly, talked about how they're really developing the players as a team, not just as a commodity that they're using for the promotion of Overwatch and their brand. Like, obviously that's part of it, but they're like developing the team with a team house, with the training, with everything. I really like that in esports, so I really want to see that team produce. I do, for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they are always like inconsistent and it's the underdog. Like, I always want to root for Team Liquid, but now that the Quake Champions beta came out, I have to imagine Rafa hasn't been playing any Overwatch, and I would be surprised if he's even an Overwatch player anymore. But no, I mean, I'm going to be rooting for CLG, but honestly, I could see any of these teams taking it home.
To be fair, Rafa plays Lucio now, and as Wins has taught us, you can multitask as a Lucio just standing on the payload. So he could be in the middle of a Quake match, mid-tournament. So I don't think there's any reason to expect him to be playing less Overwatch now. All right, but yeah, I think that basically covers the monthly melee. We'll have much more to talk about it next week. Moving on here, we do have some announcements for the Take TV Overwatch Takeover 2. That's the big LAN taking place in Europe. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but it's coming down the line here. We don't even have the full roster of teams that will be invited yet. However, the qualifiers have taken place. So we have Movistar Riders and X Cyclone both qualified out of the qualifiers, and worth noting, they both toppled the new Hammers roster in the finals of their respective qualifiers.
Feels bad, man.
So our buddies over at Hammers, we were really hoping to see you in this one, but nonetheless, I think, the fact that, they have wins against the teams like in the other, right? Like in the first one, they beat the team that they lost to in the second qualifier, and I don't remember the order of that one. I think Movistar Riders qualified second. So they would have like knocked them out of the first qualifier. So, clearly they're making strides as a team. Yeah. And I would have loved to have seen them in this one. But we will have to wait and see exactly what happens here, as it looks like maybe one of the invited teams or potentially invited teams can't make it, so they're hoping maybe to get an invite. So if anybody is listening from the Take TV Overwatch tournament, let's get Hammers Esports in there. We definitely want to see them participate.
Yes, and Hammers does too.
Yes, I think that's safe to say. Also from this tournament, though, we do have some other announcements. We have Misfits added to the list of invited teams, along with Rogue
coming back,
and Ninjas in Pajamas.
Ooh, and
so great to see them get added to the list. As you know, some of these European teams we don't get to see enough, and they're not dropping off in skill, they're just dropping off in number of opportunities to get on stream and on camera and play in streamed events. So anytime we get anything going on over in Europe, I feel like Misfits is a guarantee we have to see them, and so I definitely am glad to see them confirmed on the list. Also, as a side note, casters Jason Kaplan and Uber Shouts Mitch Leslie have been added to the list of casters. I believe they did the first Overwatch takeover for Take TV. They will be back. The announcement made me think there would be more casters than just those two. So keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Take TV tournaments are the ones that are in that like studio, and it's like super laid back, and they have the couch, and they like rotate in. Yeah. I really like those tournaments. I like that. Like I like both types of tournaments. I like the really like formal, like dress coats, analyst panel, like all that stuff tournaments, but I also like these ones. I also like these ones as well, where it's like super like laid back. But yeah, so and also obviously I always want to watch an Overwatch tournament that is casted by JCap and Uber Shouts. Like, how could you not?
Yeah, a really, really good combo of those two.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll definitely keep you updated on that one as more details come in. Keeping my fingers crossed for Hammers to get that invite. But let us move right along to
let's break it down.
Breaking it down. We've got a number of big splashes that have been happening in the scene. We saw Fnatic, Dignitas, and LG Loyal drop their rosters. They are done out of Overwatch. Kaput.
Yeah, I don't know that Fnatic and LG Loyal have officially happened yet. The announcement was to be jettisoned, like the rosters will be let go. I know Dignitas was officially let go. That did happen after this announcement came through, which makes me think the rest of the information is definitely pretty accurate. So it's likely to happen. We also saw this with Complexity and Splice last week. So that begs the question, what does this mean, Blevins? What is happening with the Overwatch comp scene right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit. What does Overwatch League mean for Overwatch? What does it mean for esports? What does it mean for esports organizations? What does it mean for non-endemic organizations like traditional sports? It's like, I think we're kind of seeing one of the fears we had from the beginning is that, like, even though Blizzard has said that a lot of those initial allegations that we talked about last week were not based in truth necessarily. They're not completely grounded in fact. They're not confirmed reports. They're not confirmed numbers. It's like, what do you do if you have a, even a tier 2 Overwatch team, even if you have a tier 1 Overwatch team right now, and you're paying top bill for the best team in the world or a top tier team, like, does that mean that you get into the Overwatch League, or does that mean that team gets into the Overwatch League? And we don't even know how the players are going to get redistributed, if player contracts have to get bought out, if this combine thing is going to, take everyone and start them off at square one. If that's the case, like, it almost makes no sense to have a team right now, right? Like, you don't want to be putting in that. Like, the only reason you would want to put in the money and the time and the effort for a team is if you're going to get that team for Overwatch League. If the org's goal is to get into Overwatch League and have a good spot in Overwatch League, like, but we don't know. We don't know anything about that. We don't even know if you're going to be able to keep your own team. So I can definitely see, especially since like Overwatch is not getting League of Legends or Counter-Strike levels of viewership. It's not getting, this, that, and the other thing. So from a business perspective, like, yeah, I could see not wanting to invest a super high amount of time, effort, resources, etc. into Overwatch right now with so much uncertainty. But at the same time, like, that still sucks for us because I want to see these organizations be in. Like, what I don't want to see is like, okay, Overwatch League started, it's a $15 million spot. It's like, okay, well, every esports organization that's not a top 5 is just gone, and now it's literally just like the Pepsi Marauders are playing against the Monster. Like, I don't want to see that, really. I really like the grassrootsedness of esports in general, and that there's so many orgs. Like, okay, I don't think like the days of starting an esports organization from nothing and then and being like, okay, I got this team and we're gonna go compete like those days are not, it's not as common anymore, right? Like to get into a top tier spot, like even League of Legends spots are multiple millions of dollars. So you can't just start from nothing. But I don't know, man. Like I don't want to see an Overwatch league that doesn't have any esports organizations in it, Like it's tough.
Yeah, it's a little rough. I don't disagree with anything you just said. I'm just not super worried at the moment. Just about every single one of these organizations has said we're not done with Overwatch. We're just not renewing our roster's contract.
Right.
And these organizations, those are the people that Blizzard's been talking to. They're the ones they've been trying to sell league spots to. They have the information that we're so desperately trying to get. They're just under a non-disclosure agreement and can't say a word.
Right.
So it's something to me. It's like the end of the Overwatch month. Like I hate to see it. Like nobody wants to see this stuff happen, but I'm trusting in the process, and I'm trusting that there's bigger things to come that will make me completely forget that any of this happened once the announcement comes out. So
yeah, for sure.
And when you think about it from the standpoint of none of these teams were at their best. Dignitas, they were better when they were Creation Esports. They just haven't had the same impact on the scene, since that time. So I don't know what kind of return they've given to the organization, from a financial standpoint, but it can't be dramatic. Fnatic has fallen off quite a bit. They've had some roster shakeups. They're not quite what they were in the past. And, realistically, they haven't been even participating in events. And LG Loyal has been at the bottom of the brackets for a little while now, despite, some promising talent on the team. So we're not looking at the best teams that are going by the wayside here. The teams that are getting the invites guaranteed and participating in the events are staying together. These are the ones that needed some work anyways. There's something was going to have to happen to these rosters or these teams in some way, shape, or form in the future, regardless of the Overwatch League. Now, so you just have people that they still want to get into the league, but if there's more than 16 teams out there, especially when you count these teams that are disbanding, these 5 here, right? So if only 16 spots are going into the first season of the league, there's going to be a lot of talent shuffling that goes on regardless of what the roster looks like, because there's better players out there that are on teams that aren't on league rosters that want to be. So they're going to buy out those contracts, bring them into their squad. A lot of this stuff's going to happen on the fly, but it's just not going to be a complete disbanding. And so I don't think it says much about whether or not Fnatic, Dignitas, and certainly Luminosity Gaming, since they still carry a roster, I don't think it says much at all about their likelihood to be in the league. The one that worries me a little bit is Splice, because they seem to really want the Boston market. And if Robert Kraft really did purchase a spot, then that seems to be gone. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens with them. They're the ones that would worry me the most on that list, but the rest, I assume, are at least just as likely as they were before to try to move into the league.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of wrap this topic up, like in the some of the conversations I've had with some owners, just kind of offhand, it's like no one really knows what it takes to be a top tier Overwatch team right now. Like not from a playing perspective, not from a performance on a specific map perspective, but from an organizational perspective. Like what does it take to put together an amazing Overwatch team, the best Overwatch team in the world? We don't know that recipe yet. So, I guess what this last year really has been kind of trying to figure out what the ingredients are that you need to make a top tier Overwatch team, a team that is going to perform, a team that is going to put you into the Overwatch League playoffs or whatever the goal is as an organization. But I could definitely see, especially there's definitely things that these organizations know that we don't know and can't know, at least right now. So I mean, on the one hand, I agree with you. Like, okay, Luminosity dropping their LG Loyal team, it's like, okay, that probably should have happened a few weeks ago. It just happened. It just seems like it happened with a lot of these other announcements and the kind of the speculation about the Overwatch League. I mean, in the Splice video, the owner of Splice, Marty, the owner of Splice, said it didn't have anything to do with the Overwatch League speculation, which makes me think that it did, just because that's just how my brain goes. But I could see the other end of it too. So.
Yeah, and we do have a couple other things to discuss here. Obviously, we mentioned already Skipjack moving over to Laser Kittens. They now have a 7-man roster, so it'll be curious to see how they handle that moving forward. Maybe somebody will be bumped out. But currently he's listed as the only tank on their roster. Yeah, so
probably won't be
safe to say he's going to be there. Also, big news from Cloud9, a player we talked about last week. I believe I asked Hexagrams directly, how do you think Selly's doing on Cloud9? The answer was not that great. He's been removed from the roster and is headed back to Korea. So he is back to being a free agent. And we'll have to see if he lands on a Korean team over there, but he is no longer over in the United States participating in anything for Cloud9. They currently sit at a 5-man roster. However, they do have Bishop as their coach. And they did, however, keep Zephyr, though. He was the other Korean player that they brought over. We talked about all the roster shakeups and the entirety of complexities up for grabs, things like that. So theoretically, they can pull a DPS player from thin air and plug him in and get a fairly high level of play from that. So, yeah, crazy week, though. Crazy week for things going on, roster shakeups and team drops, things like that. Hard to keep track of. Hopefully we did a good job. Hopefully we didn't miss anything of note, as there was literally enough of it that it's very possible we glossed over one and missed it. So our apologies. If we did, let us know, and we will make sure to mention it next week.
Yes. So let's move on and jump into those Overwatch World Cup team predictions. Deathblow did a fantastic job of bringing these up, and I've got at least a couple of points to input in here, I'm sure.
Did we do the Let's Break It Down drop yet or no?
Oh, we sure did.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Yeah, we did.
All right. Well, we'll assume we did, and if not, we're breaking it down right now. So, like I said,
let's break it down again.
Right. There we go. All right, so yeah, we're going to be taking a look at Team USA, Team Canada, Team Sweden, and Team Finland, as they have relatively deep pools of players to choose from, and they seem like the challenging, ones that are in the EU and NA regions that we could talk about here. So taking a look first, obviously, we're just going to start with the best, and that's Team USA. I'm thinking of you, I carry him. But, yeah, so when we look at the DPS here, this was, honestly, Team USA, their talent is scattered across rosters. This isn't like Finland and Sweden, we'll talk about later, where you kind of want the bulk of their roster to consist of a pre-existing team that's out there with mostly all players from one country. They are very spread out across rosters. So from DPS, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to find a hit scan specialist, a projectile specialist, main tank, so a Ryan or a Winston, and then I want an off tank or a flex, and then we need a Lucio player, and then we need somebody that can do all the other supports. That's for all of these teams. That's really what I was looking for. I did not try to keep all the teams together. We'll talk about where I think maybe they should, and then we'll just talk about kind of the all-star team for each of these roles. So for Team USA, for DPS, I went with Grim Reality on Hitscan. He just really stands out to me as one of the most punishing Soldier 76s that you can just put on the field and count on him to really make a high impact. For Projectile, I went with Jake. He's been a little inconsistent at times. However, he's got a very deep hero pool, and I just really wanted somebody that could play at a high level with Genji, and he's the one that stood out to me and came to mind. We'll also talk about notable exclusions, since there's an entire streamers fandom that just flipped out because I didn't put him on the team. But nonetheless, we have at tank, we have Mezer for the main tank. And I put Emong on the off-tank flex. His Roadhog lately has just been lights out and far and away above the rest of the NA tanks. Again, there's another very close tiebreaker. There's like a 1A and a 1B for that spot, just like there is for the projectile DPS, in my opinion, and really for the hit scan DPS. Like USA could field 2 teams pretty easily and qualify both of them. I feel confident in that. As far as supports go, I put a Vast on the Lucio, just a very consistent player. I also do believe he's a shot caller, which the team will need. If I'm wrong there, they might have to go a different direction, but we don't always get to know all these things about all the teams, and it's pretty hard to keep track of sometimes. So assuming he's a shot caller, that's the Lucio spot. And I mean, Hex mentioned it last week. How do you not put Adam on this team? Yeah. So he's going to handle the Zen, Anna, Mercy, Lucio spot, the kind of flex support. And I honestly, he might be the best player from all teams anywhere to put in that spot. So I'm very confident in that one there. Notables that are not included here: Super and main tank.
I can't. I want Super on it, man. Like I want to play that style.
And what's great here is that Team USA will be doing tryouts. So and like you said, you want that style. There's 2 distinct styles here, and Mezzer and Super are the all-stars for the different styles. Yeah. Mezzer's a little more cautious, hangs back, keeps the shield up. Super swinging that hammer, murdering everybody. The hammer's soaked in the blood of his enemies, as ZP once so eloquently put it. And just a whole different style of play.
Not called Shield Esports, man.
So great to see. So much talent there. Gods as well in the off-tank flex. He's been lights out, and he would be a really good choice because he's been known to play some DPS classes as well. So if they want to move into a 3 DPS scenario, he would be a great inclusion. And sorry, Siegel fans, he's not on an active team roster, and that really was the tiebreaker for me between Jake and Siegel.
I mean, Siegel's going to be on the team. It just has to be.
Well, if it was a fan vote, you'd be 100% correct, though. I don't know that it will be. As far as for the hit scan, Sinatra, there's something appealing about Jake and Sinatra staying together. And they would work really well in the dive comp. Obviously, Sinatra's a very, very good tracer. Jake is a very, very good Genji. So it would be great to see them work together and continue their teamwork through into the World Cup. Rob 420 and Hang for the supports were the guys that I really thought would, fit in just fine. And I'm loving how deep the rosters are. The talent pool is for the US because they're doing tryouts. They're not going to stream them, unfortunately. We got official word on that. So that's unfortunate. That would have been great to see.
For the tryouts? They really should. They really should.
I would have loved to have seen it. It would have been great to see how they structured it.
It's such a good thing to put out.
Yeah, I mean, except for if you want to win, I guess there's a little bit
for
of
the tryouts though. Like, is that really going to be revealing too much?
Well, it depends on how they did it. If it was a spectator doing it, maybe not so much.
We're talking about practice.
But yeah, so Rob 420 and Hang were the supports that I thought could have hung in. But and it really, you could just take those 6 notables and just make it Team 2. And like I said, they'd qualify and do very well for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is I want Super at tank. I want Gods at Widowmaker because still like the greatest highlight ever is from that Josh OG tournament where he just got that like insane triple kill on Hollywood Attack with I'm pretty sure that was him. Yeah, it was. But besides that, like makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So a lot of good hopes there, I think, for Team USA. Looking forward. Hopefully the committee does a good job and runs the tryouts effectively and gets that together because I think it'll look similar to that. It should make up at least, the 6 players should all be on that list of 12, I would think.
Yeah.
We can always root for the dark horse to come in.
True.
So moving on to Team Canada at DPS, I put Train at hit scan and Surefour on projectile. Surefour is just super flexible. There's no way he's not going to be on this roster. Yeah. He's got to be there.
How do you put someone that's not Mangachu in the DPS spot for Canada?
Well,
like you're breaking the cardinal rule of High Noon Podcast of favoritism for people who've been on the podcast. You broke the first rule.
I did, but I put a sad face next to his name on the notables list, and it lets you know I wasn't happy about it. As far as tank goes, this was a really tough choice, and I think there's a very decent chance I got it wrong, but what I did to make this decision was I threw out any personality conflicts that I thought might happen. The team's going to get together, and they're going to talk, and the committee is going to make a selection based off of what they think's going to work. So if XQC is somebody that they think they can get along with and work with throughout the course of the event, he's known to make a little noise. And, I don't know that any of it's been mean spirit or anything like that, but there's a lot of players out there that don't make any noise and just show up and do their work. So it might be that they prefer to go a different direction. If they do, I think Chance, the coach / fill-in for Immortals that we've seen step in on LAN and do really well for them, would be an excellent choice there that they could go with as well. But for now, I slotted XQC in there. I put Agilities in the off-tank flex. He does play a really, really strong Roadhog. He usually plays DPS, but again, you can just put him on Roadhog. He can fill the off-tank flex role very well, and they might be really well set up to run dive if they use him. So I think that's a solid pick here as well. And from support, we have Verbo on Lucio and Rolf on the Zen Mercy Ana spot. One thing of note with Canada is they've got a lot of DPS choices. We've got, Nicholas TJO, we've got ID, we've got Mangachu, all not on the team. They do lack the ability to field a second roster because of their support and their tank choices. Mm-hmm. So they were a little bit forced. But Joe Meister coming off of Complexity would have been an adequate choice there as well for support. But I really wanted to stick to teams that are currently on active rosters and participating right now. Other than Mangachu, anything there that really jumps out at you? Or any thoughts on the XQC or Chance?
I'm just so disgusted that you didn't put Mangachu on here. I can't even comment.
Well, you'll get over it. I died inside when I didn't put him on. Moving on for Team Sweden. Listen, Sweden, just send Misfits.
Yeah.
They're all Swedish. Just send them. Now, with that said, I don't think necessarily the 6 members of Misfits are the All-Stars for their specific roles. I think there are 2 notable exceptions. So those exceptions are not Nevix and they're not Tavik. So I put those 2 guys on the roster either way.
I was going to say. I was going to literally end the podcast.
Manitin is definitely still, I think, your off-tank flex there. Reinforce, I love you, buddy. Coco from Envious, I just think has you beat. Now, I will say I don't know that he's as good of a Winston as Reinforce is. So if they really want to run dive comp, maybe you do just bring Reinforce. I don't know. But I'm sorry to Mineral, but I'm sending Chipsogen in the Zen Mercy Ana because I think he's the one of those guys. Him and Unko are like the ones that are in that Adam tier where I can't imagine not including them. Yep. Also, as a note here, these guys are going to be playing at a ping disadvantage because if they're going to be participating in practice, they're going to be in Korea when they do it. That might be an issue with time zones, things like that, and it could be a good enough reason to not include them, which just makes sending the entirety of Misfits as a roster all the stronger of an idea. Nonetheless, there were some notables there. Your best friendo, Mr. Mendo, is from Sweden, and I did not include him. Also, Rib and Vonathil really stood out to me as players that could very easily make it in here, but it's just hard to shake up an existing roster so much that when there's even close to a tie, right? So like between Zabe and Vonathil, I don't know who to play. They're both really, really strong, but just given the edge to Zave there. So
yeah, I mean, I really want to see Tavik Mendo again because, of course, they formed my favorite team, My Dong, and you know how much I love to see My Dong, and how much I would love to again see My Dong, and how much I'd love to see My Dong at the Overwatch World Cup. So,
yes.
Ha-ha!
I mean, you also have.
You thought it was dead.
Good job.
Folks.
You said it like 7 times. Congratulations.
You thought it was dead. It keeps coming back. My Dong keeps coming back. Okay.
But also, I mean, you do obviously have the players from Misfits that I didn't mention in that as well. Zebasai and Mineral are both top tier players that could very easily slot in here as well. I just thought, Zave and Chipsogen in the support slots would likely hold up a little better. Zebasai switched roles recently, so how comfortable is he yet? Is he there to is he able to overtake somebody that's been set in the role for a long time? And then I don't know, Zave, it's gut instinct between him and Mineral, but I went with Zave there, who's on the Team Valfred. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but the educational team with Mendo and Rib. So a lot of that team hails from Sweden as well. So what would you do? Are you just sending misfits?
I mean, no, because I do kind of like I'd like to give for the Olympic team, like you could make the argument that you just send like the NBA championship team, but like the dream team is better and it's a more compelling story than like just sending the NBA champion at the
Right.
Olympics. So like I like the Olympics feel of it, and I feel like each team should do more of the Olympics feel, even if it might not, even if the like overall performance of a team might be better if it was a pre-made team. Like just give people their chance, man. Like I think that's the best way to do it. And I actually do want to see Mendo and Tavik play together again because it is magical.
Well, it's hard to disagree with anything you said, but you are disagreeing with your boy Tavik, who put out a tweet saying, if Sweden wants to win this thing, just send misfits. So he started a little bit of a controversy with that. Is there, it's not anything set in stone. There's no guarantee that it's right. There's diminishing returns on how much better you get as a unit over time. Like you're going to get much better over your first 2 weeks working with somebody than you are between weeks, 48 and 50.
Right.
It's just not so much that's going to happen there. But nonetheless, there's still gains to be made in the long haul there. So it would, I think, in the overall benefit of them toppling South Korea and winning this thing, for the good guys, then it would be probably best to just send misfits. Team Finland is our last team here. I very adequately described this as just fit Taimu into ninjas in pajamas. Like you just squeeze him in there because he's too good not to include. How do you not put Taimu on this list?
Yep.
I can tell you why you wouldn't put Taimu on this list, but I think I've been pretty open. I mean, he's just very apathetic to serious practice, but at the same time, no skill cap just alone. Nobody aims like Taimu.
We're talking about practice.
He's got good aim, as Tailspin said when he left when he left Envy and said all those nice things about everybody. That's what he had to say about Taimu. So, assuming they want to bring him, the committee could decide. Listen, we want people that are going to take this seriously. We want people that aren't in Korea, that aren't making it very difficult to practice as a group of six.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't blame them for it. So they may just end up sliding Himsey back in. But looking at it. Zappas, Mafu, Fraggy, Kinnell, and Zupe are. That's ninjas in pajamas. The only thing we're missing is Himsey, who's one heck of a Roadhog, but Taimu's gives you just as much from Roadhog, if not more. Also, some flexibility to do some other things. So. That's what you could do. You could just slot Himsey back in and make the same argument that you did with Sweden. Mm-hmm. You also have Sieni, Linkser, and then Shaz. Shaz has really stood out to me. I'm a support player, so I really watch the supports. But what I've seen of the new Hammers roster, Shaz has been a really excellent player for them. I don't know, whether or not he's the shot caller, and I don't know. For all I know, Himsey could be the shot caller for Ninjas in Pajamas, so swapping him out is not an option to send that whole roster. Who knows? But assuming everything lines up there, I could see Shaz swapping in for Kinnell very easily. And if they wanted to go away from the roster as a whole, they could bring Sieni and Linkser and Ube in easily and slot any of those guys in. I just erred on the side of keeping as much of the synergy that the team has built together while also taking full advantage of how ridiculous Taimu is at aim.
Yeah, I really can't argue with any of that. The only thing I would say is that we want Linkser on the team somewhere, I think.
I really do. Yeah.
I have they said if they have to send a team of 6 to these, or can there be subs?
I'm fairly certain they have to send 6.
Okay. Well, I would really like if they had some subs, because I think that it gives more people a chance to be part of their national team, which I think is a good thing, and B, I want to be able to see some Linkser's Widowmaker battles, like Linkser's God's Widowmaker battles. Which I just want to see that. Screw the rest of the tournament. I just want to see that happen. But yeah, I think subs would be a really good idea. But without that, I do. It really depends on if you want to just send the whole team, or if you want to, mix it up. I do think that even if you do send the whole team, I agree with you. You probably want Taimu on there somewhere.
Yeah, and if I'm being perfectly honest, like if you're just sending the All-Stars, like you probably end up with this. I mean, there's differences of opinions. A lot of these guys in the notable section are really close, but you're probably still just sending most of Ninjas in pajamas anyways, even if you're just trying to get the All-Stars. So you might as well, once you're that close, you might as well just go for it.
Yeah.
And as far as sending alternates, the one thing I looked for a fifth team to do a roster for, and it's just not nearly as and you noticed it dropped off and how compelling the choices were as we went already. It gets worse when you go. So it might not competitively be fair to offer some teams the ability to send considerably more players. We'll have to see how they handle it. It'll definitely be really interesting, and I look forward to the entire process.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be interesting, and we now have a recorded history of how wrong we're going to be.
Yes.
Which is great.
And at least you get to distance yourself afterward and go,
it is true. I didn't say anything. That is true. I didn't say it. Really, this is the thing where I can only be right. There's no me being wrong. So
yeah, you can just pass the buck to me.
It's a free roll completely. But we are quickly running out of time. We actually have to jump somewhere relatively quickly. I think actually 6 minutes ago. But let's move on. We've got some last minute stuff. We did have a couple of iTunes reviews banked from last week, Death.
Yes. So 5-star review from Yammy's Pajamas. Love your name, by the way. Just what the doctor ordered. Easily in the top 5 competitive Overwatch podcasts. They do a great job of covering both general Overwatch news as well as diving deep into the competitive scene. If you are self-conscious about your inability to grow facial hair, it might not be for you. The will they, won't they chemistry keeps things interesting. Thank you so much for the kind review and for cracking up the Blevins. Really appreciate it. The fifth one comes from a meme lord that I know named Awesome Potato 363. Your boy Yellow Boy is a fill-in that my team uses, who likes to listen to the show now that he knows that I do it. Dank son, this stuff is dank as heck. So in classic Yellow Boy fashion, he's just spitting out memes all the time.
He's 11 years old, isn't he?
I have no idea. I have no idea. There's some young guys on the team. I did not know until I was 2 months into the team because awesome. They don't sound young and they don't act young. But so I don't know. He could be very young. We will never know because I don't ask anymore because I don't want to know. Yeah, I already feel like I'm on an FBI watch list for hanging out with 15-year-olds playing video games.
It's just the type of thing you just let it happen.
It happens. So. Thank you very much, both of you, for the iTunes reviews. Anybody else who has not given us an iTunes review, it is the number one thing you can do to help support the show. Head on over to the iTunes page and leave us a review of any number of stars. Just make it 5.
As long as it's 5.
If you want to make us happy, any number, as long as it's 5 is fine. We really, really appreciate any honest feedback you can give us.
Yes. Super, super easy to help the show out and the best way to do it. Another way you can do it as we go into the outro of the show, another way you can help us out is by going over to patreon.com/highnoonpodcast and throw some support there. You'll get into the patron-only Discord server where we talk a lot about stuff. We make fun of each other and have a ton of fun. And actually, we got our show idea for the make our own Overwatch World Cup teams from A. Smith on the Patreon Discord. So thank you to A. Smith. Let us know what you guys thought about that. And if you guys have any other ideas for that, let us know, because I thought, and Death agreed, this was an amazing idea for a show topic, and we'd love taking your guys' feedback as long as it has nothing to do with Overwatch related cupcakes. Love getting your guys' stuff, your feedback, your ideas, any of that stuff. Love to talk about it. But that is going to be it for the show, guys. Thank you, everyone. Death, do you have any last second shout outs or anything you want to talk about?
Nothing specific, but as always, you can head over to highnoonpodcast.com and find links to all of these shows' social media pages. We're pretty much everywhere you could want to be. Normally you would be talking to podcasts anyways, so Twitter, Facebook, things like that. Those links are all up on the website. You can also find individual links for myself and the Blevins specifically on social media, our Twitch pages, things like that. So please feel free to follow us individually as well as a show. We would really, really appreciate it.
Yes. So, again, thank you guys, everyone who's listened, all the followers and good stuff like that, all the patrons, all that stuff. Thanks to Matt Chirino, who our SoundCloud is brought to you by. And thank you to Adam Hoek, who is playing the music that you're going to hear in just a second. But for Deathblow, I'm the Blevins. And remember, guys, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Oh, we've got to go. I don't have enough time to think of anything. Okay, this is going to be thinking about it.